This is a Hot Pie Original.
Look, I don't want the businesses to fail. I don't think any of us do. We want as many people making a go of it as possible and succeeding. And I am certainly not a retail expert by any stretch. I'm an expert in some areas, but not in the economics of retail necessarily. But let's pretend for a little bit we're in the lecture hall. Let's pretend we can actually be there in person. And let's put our phones away. And let's break this one down. So let's see. Toys R Us had a flameout. Some of us, it was a sad time. For a lot of us, remember all those trips to Toys R Us. I remember when Toys R Us, you'd get a haircut in Toys R Us. Have a birthday party in Toys R Us. It was the epitome of big box, one-stop shop, and you stayed there for a long time and you just bought a bunch of stuff, right? Yeah, well, times change. Toys R Us, just to put this in perspective, and again, students, we're going to break this one down and see what you would do. In fact, ask yourself as an investor, would I get in on this? Toys R Us, had 1,500 stores operated around the world before the company closed in 2018. It attempted, I guess you probably didn't know this, it attempted True Kids as a comeback. That flamed out in 2019. So there are a bunch of technical reasons why Toys R Us flamed out, too much debt. But I think most of us get that it just didn't make a whole lot of sense to spend an hour and a half looking for some Legos, right? Didn't make a whole lot of sense to spend 2 hours looking for some Legos, some Play-Doh, Lincoln Logs, and getting a haircut. You can probably do it. Most of us parents figured out we can do it in about 8 minutes. So that's it. Shut the doors. Done. Goodbye. Good night. It's all over. So we've got one massive flameout of a big box retailer. We have another that I think it's well on its way. Macy's. So students, we have one giant big box retail flameout. We have another one that's getting close. I don't want it to happen. We don't want it to happen, but the fact that you haven't been in the store should tell you everything. So we got the two of them together. We have these two separate entities that are the epitome of big box retail, or retail dying right in front of our eyes. A lot of us grew up with it, but we also grew up with Sears. Okay? So we got two of them together, students. Now, what do we do? What should we do, students? Okay, somebody in the back raises their hand and say, Professor, what we do is we take both of them and combine them into one bigger big box retail. Right, kids? And that's about the time I would assume, first of all, to be a good lecturer, you would say, well, Sarah, tell me about the strategy behind that. And Sarah might say back, I don't know, what the hell, okay? You need to leave Sarah and go to another department. It's about 2 blocks from here, and they have a potter's wheel. These two, I'd love to videotape this conference. I just would love to hear this conversation. You know what they're going to do? We're going to stick Toys R Us inside of Macy's. Problem solved. Rich. There you go. You got one idea that didn't work, another one that's not working. If you put the two bad ideas together, it's going to work. Get it, kids? Two bad ideas make one good idea. That's apparently the logic here. Oh my gosh. What? I love the way this article is written. The corpse of Toys R Us will rise once again. It's been a rough few years for Toys R Us after the iconic chain closed its doors in mid-2018 and sold off its brand and other assets in an attempt to finally pay off long-standing debts. Geoffrey the Giraffe hasn't been able to rest in peace, however, thanks to attempts to revive the toy store. The latest being a new partnership with Macy's. True Kids brand bought the rights to the Toys R Us name in 2018. So it was a colossal flameout. I mean, it crashed and burned. Now they've decided that they're going to take the Toys R Us and stick it inside of over 400 Macy's stores starting in 2022. Yeah, because you're going to go to the mall now. You hear that? You're going to go to the mall, right? Wait, so, Professor, the stuff that I bought online from both stores, that I currently buy from both stores or variations of those products, I'm now going to leave my house and go to the mall because the two stores that aren't working are combining into one. So I'm going to park and walk inside there and look at that big giant map inside the mall. And I'm going to go find the two stores that didn't work before, but they're going to work now because we're going to stick them inside of each other. Yeah, that's what we're doing, kids. You got an A. You got an A. Who is going to put their money into this? Is this the way to save Macy's? This is it. This is how you decided to save yourself? I got a great idea. Okay, so we're hemorrhaging money. We're standing around. Nobody's buying the socks. Nobody's buying the polo shirts. I'm not saying people don't buy the stuff. We all know how this works, right? But we're going to save ourselves by taking that company that went out of business and sticking them inside this one. There you go, kids. You get an A. Got the concept? It's page 45 of future textbooks. Two failed retailers stuck into one mall that's failing equals success.
John McClellan is the co-founder and creator of ATX Hot Sauce in all 50 states, now in several retail outlets as well. So we're going to turn it over to the social media rock chef superstar, and we're going to walk through a few sauces and why you should buy. We've done Beat Heat. So we're second in line now for the tasting. Don't forget, everyone, go to atxhotsauce.com. So here we go.
All right. So this one is our smoked habanero 5-pepper. We smoke habaneros with ancho, pasilla.
Is that going to hurt?
This one? No,
Yeah.
This one's actually really, really good.
Okay.
This is like your traditional tapatilla, but without the vinegar in it, right? And because of that fermentation process that we've talked about all the time. This one is great on sandwiches, pizzas, things like that. Great on hot wings. I think you're going to really like this one too, especially the smoky flavor with the adobe chipotle and the smoked habaneros. We actually smoked the habaneros before we.
Does that go with the cab?
This would not go with the cab. This would go with the great Chenin Blanc, though.
I knew you were gonna. I teed you up with that one.
Yeah, yeah.
That is good. That's good.
Isn't that good? It's just classic take. Well, it's a new take on a classic item. So it's called smoked habanero 5-pepper.
All right, don't forget
One of my
ATX.
favorites.
Don't forget atxhotsauce.com.
I don't know how I found this last night, but I was fascinated by it. It's a good chance for us to tap the brakes a little bit and lighten things up. You know this. Anybody above the age of 30, 35, I don't know what the cutoff is for any knowledge of the movie Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I don't know what it is. I don't know what the cutoff is. But Fast Times at Ridgemont High is the godfather of high school movies. Now, there are plenty of people that would debate and say, no way, 16 Candles or Breakfast Club or was it Superbad? You know, a lot of people would debate high school movies. No. The godfather of high school movies, don't say Grease either. That's different. American Graffiti, still different. Well done, but different. No. The godfather of high school movies is Fast Times at Ridgemont High. The story itself, the characters itself, everybody can relate. That was the genius behind the movie. So then I find this discussion, long discussion with a great actor, interesting, weird, angry dude, but a great actor who admits, I guess there's something about late in your career, you start to have some perspective. You're no longer this guy who wants to say, dismiss these parts that are kind of silly and you get angry about people bringing them up. You kind of own it. I learned that with John Landis, the famous director who did Animal House. I thought, oh boy, this guy's going to want to talk about other stuff. He's never going to talk about this. But he gushed about it. I always thought if you could ever talk to Sean Penn, interview Sean Penn, he might try to punch you in the face if you mention Spicoli. You would think, oh, well, he's going to act like it's beneath him and it's not cool. No, actually, not at all. This is Sean Penn. Now, if you don't know Spicoli, I can't help you right now. I really can't help you. I don't know what you need to do, but everybody knows Spicoli. Everybody went to high school with Spicoli. In some of our cases, the Spicoli of then is still Spicoli of today. Some people who weren't Spicoli then have turned into Spicoli today. But Sean Penn was asked, did an interview, a long interview. I think it was on GQ, and there was a bunch of video, streaming video. And it's great overall because his roles have been pretty dramatic and pretty compelling. They sit down with him and just start asking him about his iconic roles. What do you think comes first? What do you think comes first? Spicoli. He tells the story, apparently the broad character of Spicoli in Fast Times at Ridgemont High was just, like everything else, you got to make it up as you go. So he based, of course, you knew this, he based Spicoli on a guy that he knew.
The next thing I knew, I got the part and had a blast.
Wait a minute, there's no birthday party for me here. Oh, Mr. Hand.
What's the reason for your truancy?
Just couldn't make it on time.
So much of it came from this one character that grew up in Malibu and that I had known, throughout my teens. It was a combination of, and I can't remember what blend of this it is now, but of what Cameron Crowe had written, and this one particular guy that I knew, and it just that merger was where I went.
Do you have a guy like me in class every year? A guy who you make an example of?
I recently ran into him for the first time. We were passing on a trail to and from the beach, and this man with his wife and children was walking down the path, and who spoke in a very articulate way and greeted me, knowing he'd had the advantage of watching me age, so he knew that it was me. But then he had to introduce himself, and I couldn't believe that it was him. But I had never told anybody who it was, so I don't think he knows. Mystic River. Clint and I had met and talked about another movie that I didn't feel like was something right for me to do. He made that movie, and then I didn't know if I'd ever hear from him again because I had not wanted to do it. But he came back and offered me this one, and I probably got about 10 pages in and called him and I said, "This is a beast. Let's go."
Can I ask you something, Jimmy?
Yeah, that's for the lighthearted there, Mystic River. No matter what, if you watch this, you're going to end up watching for, I think, the last 35 minutes. The first part of his interview, the first part of this is they just open it up and say, let's talk about your iconic roles. Very first one is Fast Times at Ridgemont High. And I think the first part of this, he describes he wasn't going to get the part. He said he flamed out. He sucked. He said, I couldn't pull it off. And for some reason, what if we can find the first part of this? He says the guy calls him back. And the guy said, I don't know who it was. I mean, he talks about whoever the person was casting the movie. And I'm sure Sean Penn was cheap back then. And he says, I don't know what the guy told me. He goes, I knew I was terrible. The guy says, something about you, it's going to work. And then sure enough, you know what year that was? 1982. And he calls him back. And, the rest, I mean, it's pretty safe to say the rest is history.
Fast Times at Ridgemont High. It was my second movie, and I was in my parents' garage. My agent tracked me down at their house and said that there was this movie and that I should get a hold of the book. So I went out and I got the book and I read it, and I immediately recognized this guy.
Do you ever fear for your life?
Well, Sue, I'll tell you, surfing's not a sport. It's a way of life, no hobby. It's a way of looking at that wave and saying, hey, bud, let's party.
I had grown up with a kid that was real similar to that. And I thought, yeah, I could find the music of this. And then I went in to audition. It was a disaster. I was never good at auditioning. But there was a casting director on that movie named Don Phillips who was extremely important to many careers. He was an actor lover. He really cared about people, and he saw things that maybe you weren't even presenting. And so he convinced them to see me again, and pushed, and the next thing I knew, I got the part and had a blast.
I mean, he flamed out. So a lot of it was made up. I don't know what they didn't ask him, and maybe he might try to punch you in the face. Did you come up with, hey, bud, let's party, or was that written? And by the way, who knew there was a Fast Times at Ridgemont High book? What? What? There's a book? Who knew that? Who's read the book? Who lived through that even says they read the book? Wow. Is Damone in the book? What about the speaker salesman from the mall? They have sex in the dugout. Is he in the book? I believe that Jefferson is in the book. I believe that Brad is in the book. I believe that Phoebe, or what was her name? Janet? I believe she's in the book. But there's a book? Okay. It's The Godfather of high school movies, which are not exactly Schindler's List themselves, but it's the best of the genre. We could debate it all day, but it's still for stupid, drunk comedy, or stoned comedy. It's the best of the genre.
From the Hot Pie Media Studios in Austin, Texas, it's the Jeff Ward Show. Listen at jeffwardshow.com.